localization is one of the ways in which we can drive manufacturing forward. And economic literature, not to sound too much like a policy wonk now, has shown us that manufacturing and growth in manufacturing is one of the highest spillovers into the economy. For every one manufacturing job you create 4 other jobs throughout the economy. That's up and down the supply chain, that's in ancillary industries. That's one of the highest jobs multipliers that you'll find. And we see that not only in South Africa, we see that in other industries as well. And I think that this Coricraft example is a really good illustration of that. Is that through building manufacturing capacity in the plant in Epping in Cape Town, we've seen a catalyzing of a supply chain upstream. You know, that a couch that you see, or any seated material, is a combination of different materials, of metal, of foam, of timber, of upholstery, of leather. And this all needs to be sourced from somewhere, much of which can come from the South African economy. And so those multiplier effects are very, very clear. But beyond the developmental point, there's a commercial and a business case for localizing as well. And I would also say that this Coricraft example is, again, a very good illustration of that. Because what we see that through localization, we can create more agile businesses. We can shorten those supply chains. We can reduce the fluctuations through currency volatility. We can reduce the lead times through port delays and having to get in line at different manufacturers around the world. Lean manufacturing is what's going to make our industry more competitive. If we can ensure that some of our manufacturers can be more efficient, we can begin to compete on pricing with some of the imports that's coming from abroad.
This is the bottom line. This is the so what. Firstly, let's call it 80 million rands worth of product that used to be in the containers. So there's 80 million rands worth of containers that's been stopped. That never got onto the container, which is first price. Additional 23 people that, in Urshad, if we multiply that by 4, so it becomes quite significant. People have been trained. People now understand what this is all about. Also, we need to make sure that this continues beyond the involvement of the consultant. The consultant cannot drive this forever. 8.33% factory efficiency, that's overall, that's all departments together. 5,000 units that did not make it into the container that is now made locally. And then in sewing specifically, and we've mentioned that before, 38% improvement in efficiency.
We need to understand our processes. We need to understand our factories. We need to have that attention to detail. 80 million rands worth of production now in the South African economy. That 80 million rands was previously sitting in the economies of China and India and other parts of the world. It's now here. It's creating jobs. And as Hannah says, it's creating jobs up and down the supply chain. What was amazing for me when I spent time, as I said, in the Coricraft factory, it's not just jobs in those factories, but it's sustaining jobs in other factories in South Africa, in the timber industry, in the foam industry, in the leather industry. That's really incredible. And I'd like to say, I mean, this is really only just the start of it.
I think from lean manufacturing, if there's no buy-in from top management, if top management then says to the supervisors on the floor, we're bringing in some guys to run a lean manufacturing project, let us know how it goes later on. It's not going to work. So there has to be buy-in right from the top of the organization and right down to the bottom. It's a totally different way of looking at people on the floor, and I think it's empowering in a way where the person on the floor has now realized that he knows something that management actually doesn't know. And you asking him to give his ideas on how we can be better as a company. And I really think that's empowering, and it really creates a good vibe in the factory.